So while going through your publications, we saw that most of the papers you have co-authored with other mathematicians. So how do you think collaborative math is better than doing it on your own?
So most of the things they are not well, except of first my thesis work and my postdoc work. The remaining are with my students. If you want to, if well, I'm writing a single author paper. That's a different thing. But if you want to write a single author paper, you need lots of time. You will have to spend more time on the paper. Because if you want to write something new, because you cannot just like that copy others' proof and then write down, and your paper will not get accepted. That's first thing that one will have to note. And if you want to write a new proof, it requires time. It requires lots of time. That's what I observe. And so mostly whenever I have some problems, I'll give it to my students. I'll ask them to work, and wherever they get stuck, because I'll have to propose some ideas how to proceed further. Because the time that I will have to spend, I'm asking them to spend.
So, what is the craziest experience you have with a student of yours that makes you laugh even now?
Uh, I never realized that this part when my student asked me, how much time did you take to write an introduction for your thesis? I simply told him that I just took half a day to write an introduction for my thesis because I knew all the contents. Each and every word is known to me. And whoever have done which part, each and every single word I knew. So I know how to write. So it just took half a day for me to write the thesis. And he simply told me that, are you serious? I said, yes. He simply told me that I cannot believe you. I said, why? And what do you think that will make you believe? If you can write an introduction for me, then I'll believe. But for his thesis, I took some 3-4 weeks. That's a different thing.
So can you describe your philosophy for teaching?
Well, only thing is that one should never lose consciousness in front of the students. And second thing, be prepared for all kinds of questions, which means when you go for a class, you should be 100% prepared. There can cheap question, the worst, which you will never expect this kind of question. And at the same time, there'll be a hardest question. So you should be prepared for both. There is a professor by name Professor Kulkarni, who was in IIT Madras. He retired recently. He taught us real analysis. If the class starts at 2, he'll enter the room sharp at 2. You can set your watch. If the class gets over by 2:50, he'll leave the class by 2:50. Not even he'll miss a single second, nor he'll spend a second extra in the class. It's very perfectionist. At the same time, he knew who is going to ask which question. He prepares in such a way that he knew, yes, this is the student, this student is going to ask this question. And somehow or the other, he'll simply turn to the student will ask the question, he'll answer them clean. And how does he prepare all these questions? How does he know that, yes, this fellow is going to ask this question? So I realized, yes, if one is supposed to become a teacher, yes, he should be of this kind. You should prepare everything from each and every place. He'll tell you, So if someone asks this question, he'll simply say, yes, you can find this in this book. It is part of the exercise. Try it on your own. Certain things, he'll simply say, give a hint. Certain things, he'll say, yes, it is hard. This is the way to proceed. And he know how to answer them. Then I realized, yes, this is how one should be. Prepare everything. Because you cannot just like that say that, yes, they are available in books. You cannot say this. When you say that, yes, the content is available in a book, which book, where it is available, which exercise number, page number, everything. Oh, such a great teacher is Professor Kulkarni. You will never believe this. But I had an opportunity, and I'll say that I'm a lucky fellow to have him as one of my teachers.
Sir, is there any mathematician who inspires you during your research?
I'll simply say Professor A.T.M. Lowe of Canada. He was in Alberta University. And second one is Professor Nikos Pronk of University of Waterloo. The way they write the papers and their choice of problems, the problems that they choose and how do they write, and that tells you, yes, and in fact, that is how one should write papers, and that is how a problem should be chosen. You cannot just like that choose a problem. Yes, just go to, if you go to places like TFR, especially in those days, it's a statement that if you want to go to TFR, go to an old library, look for journals. Why? Because in those days, they wanted to choose only an open problem. Give a try. But that is not going to help. Especially in terms of for thesis, that will not help. If you are working towards PhD, selecting an open problem, working towards that may not help in many places. But if you look at either Sprong's paper or Lowe's paper, all the problems that they work are all in the current. Whatever is expected. Which means that tells us that, in fact, that was when I started reading these papers, I understood that you don't have to go and search for old papers. Search for the recent ones, read them, now get the idea of how they have done, and then now frame your problems, start working towards that. Not that you go and look for a 1950 or 60s journal, and then you find some open problem that was left for several years, and then you spend your whole life for next to 30 years and come out with a bare hand. That will not help. So when you want to be successful in research, especially in terms of mathematics, especially in places like IITs, where more output is expected, then the only thing is that you will have to choose the appropriate problem. And second thing, it should be of current interest. There should be people working in that. And then once, so choose the problem accordingly. And this is what I learned from Nikos Pronk, and the other one is A.T.M. Lowe. Of course, A.T.M. Lowe, he has retired again. He has retired. He's a very old fellow.
So, do you have some advice for someone who aspires to become a mathematician on selecting his or her area of research?
If you want to pursue research in mathematics, then the only thing is that one will have to be thorough with the basics. At any point of time, they should be thorough with the basics. That should help them. This is the only advice. And that will lead them to what they wanted. If they are good in math basics, then wherever they go, they'll be successful. Because that's what I told you. I don't even know that I'll be working in harmonic analysis. I thought that I wanted to do my research in functional. later I realized that, oh, I'll be working in so-called harmonic analysis. But now I realize that, yes, harmonic analysis is much, much more interesting than the usual functional analysis. Of course, the main ingredients are only from functional analysis.
Sir, what do you have any research problem you are likely to pursue them or explore them in future?
One thing that I wanted to explore especially is quantum information. I wanted to learn quantum information because it is one of the subjects which is directly linked to abstract harmonic analysis. I wanted to learn quantum information, and at least because the analog of the Shannon's coding theorem, originally when it was proposed, people did not believe, but now there are variety of Shannon's coding theorem, especially in the quantum analogs. There are variety of things. So somehow I wanted to learn this quantum information and work on this. And yeah, this is one. And of course, the second one that I always feel like working is what is known as semi-simple Lie groups. Of course, Harishchandra, he has finished almost most parts, but there are lots of things still left. Even after Harishchandra's hard work and all those things, there are lots of things that are still left, especially in the context of PDEs and other transforms. So one day or other, I believe that I'll be able to learn at least the basics of semi-simple Lie groups and at least write one theorem on semi-simple Lie groups. I always feel that, oh, that will be the day I always feel that I have achieved. If I can write one theorem on semi-simple Lie groups, I'll feel that, yes, I have achieved.
So, how did your family support you in achieving this, and who inspired you in your highs and lows in this field?
My parents were always behind me, and even now, my brother, and now it's my wife. So she always tells me, how many papers have you returned this year? She always asks me every year. So I always used to tell her that, see, our HOD, even after becoming HOD, he writes 10 papers per year. He always tells me, ask me, when are you going to write 10 before you become professor or before you become HOD? And so I don't know when am I going to do this, but still she always motivates me.
Sir, is there any suggestion you want to give to a student who want to become a prof at IIT?
Do your PhD well, in the sense, contribute a good thesis. Make sure that your contents of the thesis are published in good journals. And after your PhD, publish some good works. If you can, then good. If you can publish, then publish some individual works. Then you should be able to get a position at IIT. Good publications should always help, because we have been seeing many candidates who apply. Not that, oh, this IIT is, you can find some 1 or 2 are joining once in every 1 or 2 months. Especially in the last 1 or 2 years, you can find that in every 3 months, 1 faculty or 2 faculty, they are joining. Not that there are only 5 or 6 applications. For every 3 months, there are at least 40 to 50 applications. And we will have to sort them. And the one with poor publications can be easily found. One can easily find them. That can be easily sorted. And when you come for the interview or when you come for giving a talk, be prepared. Never ever give a loose talk.
Sir, are there any mathematical magazines or journals you would like to suggest to a UG or PG mathematics student?
There is something called AMS Math Monthly. AMS Math Monthly, which is worth reading. And similarly, there is other one, Bulletin of AMS. Of course, there are other things like Mathematics Newsletter. I think it is published by Indian one. There is something called Mathematics Newsletter. And apart from which, there are a few more. India, they publish. One is Ganitha. I don't remember. I think it is Ganit. These are again worth reading. This AMS Math Monthly, apart from the there will be 1 or 2 research articles, but apart from all these, you can find lots of survey articles. You will also find some new proofs. And apart from this, there are columns for job opportunities for PhD, postdoctorate. You'll find lot. It's worth reading. It has got so many things. Even Bulletin of AMS. Even so, in Bulletin of AMS, you will find much more than this. You will also find reviews. So you can. So if at all a new book comes, you will find a review of that book. Then based on the review, you can buy those books if you are interested. Whether to read, whether it is worth for us. Many things are there in Bulletin of AMS. Again, there is something called Mathematics Newsletter, which is again worth reading. Mathematics Newsletter has got so many things. Starting from the age of 15 up to the age of 16, it has got variety of things to read. And you will never feel that you are reading a magazine of mathematics.
So, do you want to share any mischievous thing you did in your college time?
Mischievous. I don't know whether I was mischievous because I was there. Well, I'll never not say mischievous, but because see, point is, I don't want to cut any classes. Starting from my BSc, but that turned out to be the thing because one day it was the last period is from 6:30 to 7:30 because I was in the evening college. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 the last period, and there is no one. But I was very adamant that yes, I will be here. Let the teacher come and teach for me. And the teacher came and he started scolding.
So, throughout your teaching career, can you share any experience of students, the kind of mischief they did and how you responded to it?
You know, especially the backbenchers. You know what is that? If you go for especially in a large class, so what is that time that they use it for? That is the time where they use it for chatting, booking tickets. Usually, I don't solve problem on a board. Unless and until it is a bit difficult, I don't solve problem on the board. I'll simply write the problem. I'll ask the students to solve because this is the time I can go around the class. Especially in a large class, this is the only way. But you can find that whenever I go around, students, at least they'll start opening the book. They'll start writing their notebook in the notebooks. So one student, he doesn't want to stop looking at his laptop. I told him that, yeah, I've come for a round. At least now, add that you are writing something. Sir, please wait. Let me first finish my booking the ticket. Let me first finish my booking, and then you can say whatever you wanted. So I told him that this is not the way. You cannot just like that book tickets. So usually when students, they don't write, whenever I find that they are not writing, I simply say that please do not waste your pen and paper just because I am coming for a rounds. So this will be my comments usually. So, and in spite of which, if someone starts writing, I'll simply say please do not waste your pen and ink.
Sir, any suggestions you want to give to students, like how they shall read or explore?
This was actually suggested by my teacher, Professor Kulkarni. I'm just repeating. If a theorem appears or a result appears after a definition, write down the statement, understand the statement, understand what is given, what is to be done. Close the book. Now you have the definition and you have understood the statement. You have understood what to be done, and therefore try to write a proof on your own. If you are stuck, go to your teacher, ask him, where am I wrong? Or how to proceed further. If you have finished writing the proof, verify it once again. Now look back into the book, whether your proof and the proof given in the book, they are one and the same. This will give you a confidence that you are actually able to work on mathematics. If the proof given in the book is different, now see how it is different and why it is different. What is the different idea they have used?